Hey horror fans, welcome back to Room 237. So I figured I wouldn't do them all in one night, but as I've said in the last two videos, it is June 13th, it is Jason's birthday. And I planned on reviewing the whole Friday the 13th series for the month of June. But I figured, why not this be the last one on his birthday? My favorite sequel, one of the best. If it wasn't for the first movie, this one would be the best one. Actually, none of them would exist, but Part 4, the final chapter. Which is kind of funny because Part 9 is called Jason Goes to Hell, the Final Friday. But then all other releases took the Final Friday off because it wasn't. But they kept the final chapter on this. And again, I'm a sucker for simple covers. This cover is great. This might be my favorite. Well, either this or the first one as far as covers go. But yeah, this is a great sequel. This is probably my favorite slasher sequel. I mean, everything about it is great. You got Joseph Zito directing, director of The Prowler, which I also reviewed, so check out my review on that. You have Tom Savini returning to do the makeup, blood, and gore effects. So it's just as good as the original. You have a bigger cast. You know, you have Crispin Glover from Back to the Future, and horror fans might know him as Willard, the remake of Willard. You get a young Corey Feldman. This was before The Goonies, which actually The Goonies is why he wasn't in Part 5. This was right after Gremlins. And this picks up right where number 3 leaves off. He's still in the barn. He's still got the axe in his head. He's picked up, taken to a morgue. So it's really the only time he's in like an actual building, other than Part 8, which I'll get to. I love the scenes in the morgue. You know, you got the mortician trying to make out with the nurse, but the lights are out. I love the look of the dark morgue. The glare and the shine of the metal of like the ice boxes. He's watching some weirdo like aerobics video. I guess that's like porn to him. Which he was in another movie that I just reviewed. I can't remember what it was. I want to say Bloody Birthday, but I don't think that's right. He gets a great death. You know, Jason comes out of the ice box with a bone saw. Goes like that and he twists his head around. I can't remember how the nurse dies. I think she gets a bunch of needles. But then, you know, you get your group of friends. You have Crispin Glover, who's like the hopeless romantic. His best friend Teddy, who's cocky but not successful with the ladies. Bigger group of people. They're going out to a house which is next door to the Jarvis family. Young Tommy Jarvis, played by Corey Feldman. And a lot of people think that Corey Feldman as Tommy Jarvis is sort of a homage to Tom Savini because he makes masks, loves horror movies, he makes little animatronics, and makes monsters. I guess it's just coincidence. I guess his name was Tommy before they hired Tom Savini. Which Tom Savini came back because, you know, he says, I helped create the monster in the first one. Thank you for letting me kill the monster in the last one. Which, of course, it wasn't the last one. I wish it was. If anything, like, if it did continue from the original to Part 2 with Jason, because I've said before, I wish the original stayed by itself. Then Part 2 was a new original film with Jason. They ended this one regardless, but if it did continue with 4 movies, I wish it ended at this. It would have been perfectly fine. So, Tommy's mom, his older sister, they're next door to this party house, which the party group, they're on a hike and they meet these 2 twins on bicycles, so they become part of the group. Also, they drive by this hitchhiker woman who has a sign of where she's going. They say something rude to her. She turns around and says, fuck you. She's eating a banana and she gets stabbed from behind. It is Tom Savini, so you get great effects. Knife going through the back, out the front. You see her squeezing the banana, chunks of banana and blood coming out of her mouth. And then it's just Jason killing these people. Again, Friday the 13th, not much of a plot. Just, you have a house in the woods, group of teens, you have Jason killing them. And this one, next to the original, is the best one. This is my favorite Jason movie. I think it's a lot of people's, actually. I know a lot of people say 6. I've heard a few people say 7, but most people will say 4. And, just talking about the deaths, I mean... Well, you also have lines like Teddy, whenever he wants to break the news, in a dickhead way to Crispin Glover, he says, let me look it up on the computer. He just types on his lap. They say why his girlfriend broke up with him. He's like, the computer says you're a dead fuck. The computer don't lie. Like, Ted finds these old 30s, like, flapper girl reels, I guess like porno back in the 30s, but it's like topless flapper girls. So they're all sitting there watching it, but there's a part where Teddy's by himself because all the women rejected him, but Crispin Glover gets laid. The reels get messed up, so he goes right up to the screen. You get this great stab through the screen. He slides down, so there's that bright shiny blood on the white projection screen. You get the virgin girl who could have lived, but see, one of the things is, if you have sex on Friday the 13th, you die. And I think that was perfectly explained, especially in this scene, because the sort of sweet, reserved girl who you think is going to live because she's a virgin, she has sex with this guy who she likes in the shower, then she gets an axe to the chest while she's still wearing a towel. Then Jason smashes his hand through the glass shower door and pushes his head against the wall, and you hear it crunching and his head getting squished. I guess there was more to it, but even with what's been cut, it still looks great. One of the twins gets thrown from like a 2nd or 3rd story window, lands on the station wagon, and I mean, you can tell it's metal. Like the bike rack, the metal roof dents, the windows blow out, great effect. One guy gets like a harpoon gun, like the whole gun to the groin, because he's going skinny dipping with his girlfriend. The girlfriend, though, she's on a raft, completely naked, and she gets stabbed through the raft. But behind the scenes, I guess it was like 20 degrees when they filmed that. And, when she gets stabbed, she kind of goes cross-eyed and makes this weird face. But I guess it's because her body was just so cold that she had no other way but to act it like that. I guess she got hypothermia. Watching Crytal Lake Memories, the 7-hour documentary. Great documentary. I'll talk about that someday. I might talk about it in this playlist, actually. That Ted White, the guy who plays Jason, actually stood up for her and said, you gotta warm her up or I'm quitting as Jason. And to talk about Ted White, of course, this is the last one where Jason was a human. Beyond this, he's like a zombie that keeps coming back from the dead. I know everyone says by default, Kane Hodder's the best Jason. I might have to agree to an extent. When I think of Jason, I think of Kane Hodder because he played him 4 times. But the guy that played him the best was Ted White. I gotta agree with my friend Hellhound from Horror Metal on this. Ted White did a great job, The other 2 Jasons ran. As I said before, part 2 and part 3, he runs. In this, he's like the methodical stalker. He moves very slow, and you can tell when you see him, he's calculating. You also get and he has like long black fingernails, like he's this guy that's just been out in the woods for a while. You get this guy, Rob, whose sister Sandra was part of the spear through the couple in the bed in part 2. He's looking for her, because it's been a few days now. So I'm guessing this is like Sunday and Monday, the 15th and 16th. His death is pretty ridiculous. He's down in the cellar. I like how it was shot, all shadows in the background, Jason stabbing him. But his acting is, he's killing me, he's killing me. Really ridiculous. I can't remember how Tommy's mom gets killed. I don't have to say spoiler alert for these, but... You know, Crispin Glover gets a cleaver to the face. Well, first he gets a corkscrew to the hand into the table. Then he gets a cleaver to the face. It's quick, but it looks great. And I don't think I mentioned before about how Jason puts bodies everywhere. So, I always thought it was to scare people, but it's to stop people. Like Crispin Glover, he nails his hands up so he's blocking a doorway. So someone actually has to pull him down off the nails to get by him. But yeah, the effects in this are only beaten by the first one. I am partial to the first Friday the 13th, yes. Even though the portrayal of Jason in this is the best Jason, I think. Probably the best look for Jason. Also, like I mentioned in the first one, where Tom Savini believes if you have a blunt or sharp object, you have to show it hitting something. Like in the first one with the axe, it hits the light fixture and you hear the ting of the metal. So when the axe hits her, it makes it more effective. Like when Jason grabs Corey Feldman through the window, his sister is hitting him with the hammer and you sort of hear the... But then when she turns around to the claw, you know, it's more like, holy shit. That must have hurt. And Ted White hated Corey Feldman behind the scenes. You know, Corey Feldman is how you would imagine Corey Feldman. And I guess Ted White was just, he hated him. And so when he actually had to grab him, he really... And also Ted White, he sort of secluded himself. He didn't mingle with cast or anything. He sort of stayed in costume away from everyone, which is awesome. The look of Jason, especially as far as human Jason, is the best in this. It's sort of a mixture of all of them. The lumpy Quasimodo look, the bald, bumpy, hillbilly look from the third one, but also its own touch in this. Like, this is the best looking human Jason. And I thought it was smart how Tommy, he somehow has a composite drawing of Jason. I'm guessing what Alice described to people at the end of the first one. Because his mom keeps telling him he needs a haircut. So while his sister's fighting off Jason, he's in the bathroom, he's cutting his hair, and you know, it shows he can make these horror masks and stuff. He knows how to use makeup. He makes himself look like Jason as a boy, and he confuses him. And he grabs the machete, hits him here, and he goes like half away. And Ted White does this great, like, but when he falls, he lands on it, and he slides down it, and it looks, and you get like this moist sound. It looks beautiful and horrific. But not only that, the head was animatronic, so you had the eyes moving around, the mouth, like, looks like someone sliding down a fucking machete on their face. And then, of course, you had that long scene where Tommy's just hacking him away, saying, die. They really wanted to kill off Jason at the end of this. I mean, there's no way he's living after that. Then you got that weird ending where Tommy's hugging his sister, and it's up close of him. He's just like, slow-mo, implying maybe he's going to be traumatized and become the next killer. Because that was the thing. It was like, is it the final chapter? Is it the final Jason chapter? At the time of its release, I mean. But again, you know, part 4, the final chapter. It's my favorite Jason movie. Just with Ted White playing Jason, Joseph Zito directing. You had a good, fun cast. You had great kills. Tom Savini doing the makeup. Just how can you go wrong? It definitely would have been one hell of a bang to end it if they did choose to end it, but of course they didn't. They should have. But yeah, I'm sorry. The first one is still my favorite out of the whole series, but if we're talking just Jason, this one's my favorite. And you know, if you can only pick one movie to see what Jason's all about, get this one. Because this is one where he's the slow, methodical, lumbering stalker. He sets up bodies, one to scare, one to, sort of thwart people from getting away or stopping him. Just, the atmosphere is good too, it's a good looking house, good seclusion. Good sense of no way of getting out because one of the twins decides to leave on her bike. She gets killed, right outside the house. I don't know where I was going with atmosphere, but they're all in the woods. But yeah, final chapter. Fantastic sequel, especially as far as slasher films go. Just the best Friday the 13th sequel, the best Jason movie, period. 1984, like I said, in Spider University, that was the last year for truly great slasher films. Just like 1984 itself is the final chapter for slasher films, at least good ones. I'll just keep rambling. So for Room 237, final chapter, best slasher sequel. Thank you.